The Vorn came like a storm of death. Their ships punched through the station's shields and attached to the outer hull like parasites. Cutting torches burned through metal. Airlocks exploded inward, and then the raiders poured inside. They were tall creatures, thin and covered in black armor. Their bodies had been changed with machines, metal arms, glowing red eyes, weapons built into their flesh. They moved fast and killed faster. The Kelthran warriors met them first. Admiral Voryx had positioned his best soldiers at the breach points. 200 warriors with the finest weapons. They were confident. They were proud. They were dead in minutes. The Vorn did not fight like normal enemies. They fought like machines, no fear, no hesitation, perfect coordination. Every shot hit its target. Every movement had purpose. The Kelthran fell in waves. Captain Yunhana gathered the humans in a secure room deep in the station. 40 men and women stood before her. Engineers, doctors, translators, scientists, not soldiers, at least not officially. "The Kelthrans are losing," Hana said. Her voice was steady despite the distant sounds of gunfire. "The Vorn have taken 3 sections already. They are moving toward the civilian areas." A young engineer named Jae-won spoke up. "What do we do? We have no weapons. We have no armor." "We have training," Hana replied. "Every human here passed basic combat certification. We are not helpless." She looked at the group. Most of them were afraid. They had heard stories of what the Vorn did to prisoners, how they tortured, how they killed slowly, how they enjoyed it. "I am going to contact Admiral Voryx," Hana said. "I will offer our help." She activated her communication device. Static filled the air for a moment. Then Voryx's voice came through, heavy with stress. "What do you want, human?" "Admiral, I have 40 personnel ready to assist. We can reinforce your lines. We can help evacuate civilians. Let us fight." There was silence, then a harsh laugh. "Fight? You? This is a real battle, Captain. Not a simulation, not a training exercise. This is war, and war is for warriors, not for fragile little creatures who break if you push them too hard." "Admiral, people are dying." "Yes, Kelthran people, strong people. If we cannot hold them, what makes you think you can? Stay in your hole, human. Hide. It is what your kind does best." The connection cut off. Hana stood very still. Her jaw was tight. Her eyes burned with anger. Around her, the other humans looked at the floor. They had heard everything. Daeho stood in the back of the room. He had been silent the entire time, watching, listening, waiting. A new voice came through the communication system. It was weak, filled with fear. A young female voice speaking the Kelthran language. "This is Junior Officer Nara. I am trapped in Sector 7. I have 3 wounded civilians with me. 12 Vorn are approaching. I cannot hold them. Please, someone help. Anyone. Please." The message repeated. Nobody answered. Hana looked around the room. She knew that Sector 7 was deep in enemy territory. Sending a rescue team would be suicide. Any human who went there would die. She was about to respond when Daeho stepped forward. "Captain." Everyone turned to look at him. The quiet translator. The man who never spoke in meetings, the man who cleaned up his spilled soup and walked away without a word. "Permission to retrieve survivors in Sector 7. The room went completely silent. Hana stared at him. She knew what she was looking at. Not a translator, not anymore. This was the man from the file, the man who held a mountain pass alone, the man who killed 2,800 enemies with his own hands. "Daeho," she said quietly. "Are you sure?" "I am sure." She took a deep breath. This was the moment she had feared, the moment she had secretly hoped would never come. Because once she said yes, there was no going back. "All restrictions lifted," she said. "Do what you need to do." Daeho nodded once. Then he walked out of the room. He moved through the corridors quickly. He knew exactly where he was going. A small storage room in the human section, a room with a locked case that nobody else knew about. He entered the code. The lock clicked open. Inside the case was his past. Black armor, worn and scratched from 100 battles. A rifle with marks carved into the stock, one for every confirmed kill until he stopped counting. A helmet with a cracked visor and a symbol painted on the front. A skeletal hand reaching outward. The mark of the Grim Reaper. Deho picked up the armor. It felt familiar in his hands, like meeting an old friend, like meeting an old enemy. He put it on piece by piece. The chest plate, the arm guards, the leg plates. Each piece fit perfectly. His body remembered even if his mind wanted to forget. Finally, he picked up the helmet. He stared at the symbol for a long moment. "I buried you," he whispered. "I buried you at Valmont. I swore I would never become you again." The station shook as another explosion hit somewhere above. Screams echoed through the vents. Somewhere, people were dying because nobody would help them. Deho closed his eyes. When he opened them again, something had changed. The tiredness was gone. The sadness was gone. All that remained was cold, perfect focus. He put on the helmet. "But the dead," he said softly, "do not stay buried." He checked his rifle. Loaded. Ready. He checked his knife. Sharp. Clean. Then Kang Deho walked towards Sector 7. Behind him, in the dark of the storage room, the empty case lay open. A small photograph was taped inside the lid. It showed Deho standing with other soldiers, all of them young, all of them smiling. Every person in that photograph except him was dead. He did not look back. Nara pressed her back against the cold metal wall. Her weapon was nearly empty. 3 bullets left, 12 enemies coming. The math was simple. The math was death. Behind her, 3 wounded civilians huddled together. An elderly merchant with a broken leg. A young child who had not stopped crying. A scientist with blood running down her face. They looked at Nara with desperate hope. They believed she could save them. She could not save them. She could barely save herself. The Vorn footsteps grew louder. Heavy boots on metal floors. They were not hurrying. They knew there was nowhere to run. They were enjoying the hunt. Nara raised her weapon. Her hands were shaking. She was 22 years old. She had never killed anyone. She had never watched anyone die. Now she would do both in the same moment. The first Vorn appeared at the end of the corridor. Then the second. Then more. 12 tall figures in black armor, their red eyes glowing in the dim light. They saw her. They saw the civilians. One of them laughed. "A little Kelthrin playing soldier," he said. "How sweet. Kill her slowly. Let the others watch." Nara aimed at his head. Her finger touched the trigger. Then the lights went out. Complete darkness. Not even the emergency lights worked. Someone had cut all power to this section. Nara blinked, trying to adjust her eyes. She heard the Vorn curse in confusion. "Thermal vision," one of them ordered. "Switch now." A moment of silence. Then a sound. Soft. Almost nothing. A single footstep in the darkness. One of the Vorn made a choking noise. Something heavy hit the floor. "Gorvek! Gorvek! Report!" No answer. 2 shots rang out. Perfect. Precise. 2 more bodies fell. Nara heard the impacts. She pressed tighter against the wall, shielding the civilians with her body. The remaining Vorn opened fire. Their weapons lit up the corridor with flashes of light. In those brief moments of brightness, Nara saw something impossible. A figure in black armor moving between the Vorn. Moving faster than anything human should move. One flash, the figure broke an arm. Next flash, a knife opened a throat. Next flash, a body flew through the air. The Vorn were screaming now. Not battle cries, real screams, fear screams. "What is that thing? What is that thing?" More gunfire, more flashes. In each flash, another Vorn fell. They could not hit what they could not see. They could not fight what they could not understand. Then silence. Complete. Terrible silence. Nara held her breath. She could hear her heart pounding. She could hear the child crying softly behind her. Nothing else. The lights came back on. 12 Vorn lay dead on the floor. Some had been shot. Some had been stabbed. Some had their necks bent at impossible angles. Blood covered the walls. The smell of death filled the air. In the middle of the carnage stood a single figure. Black armor, cracked helmet, a skeletal hand painted on the visor. The figure turned toward Nara. She raised her weapon automatically. Then the figure spoke. A calm voice, a human voice. "Are you hurt?" Nara could not answer. Her voice had abandoned her. The figure stepped forward and offered a hand. "I am here to help. Can you walk?" She looked at the hand, looked at the bodies, looked back at the hand. You are human." "Yes." "One human did this?" The figure did not answer. He simply waited. Slowly, Nara took his hand. He helped her to her feet. Then he moved to the civilians, checking their wounds, speaking softly. "The route to the medical bay is clear now," he said. "Follow the green lights. Do not stop for anything. I will make sure nothing follows you." The civilians did not argue. They ran. Nara did not run. She stood and stared at the human in black armor. "Who are you?" He looked at her for a long moment. Then he turned away. "Nobody important." He disappeared into the corridor before she could respond. Over the next hour, the station changed. Reports came flooding into the command center. Vorn patrols were being destroyed. Enemy communications were full of panic. Something was hunting them. Admiral Vorix stood at his command console, watching the tactical display with growing confusion. In Sector 7, a single dot moved through enemy territory. Everywhere that dot went, enemy signals disappeared. "Identify that unit," Vorix ordered. His officers worked their consoles. The answer came quickly. "Sir, it is a human." "A human squad?" "No, sir, one human. Kang De-ho. Occupation listed as translator." Vorix stared at the screen. A translator. A single human translator was cutting through Vorn raiders like they were nothing. "That is impossible." His communication system crackled. A Vorn voice came through, captured from enemy channels. "All units fall back to Section 9. Do not engage the target. Repeat, do not engage. It moves through walls. It sees in darkness. We cannot kill it. We cannot stop it. It is not human. It cannot be human." The voice was shaking with terror. "It is death. It is death walking in human form." Vorix turned off the communication. His hands were trembling. For the first time in his military career, he did not know what to do. On the tactical display, the single dot kept moving, kept killing. The Grim Reaper had returned. Admiral Vorix sat alone in his command chamber. His officers had left. The battle still raged outside, but he could not focus on it. His eyes were fixed on the screen before him. Earth Military Archives. Classification, maximum secret. He had used every favor, every connection, every trick he knew to access this file. Now he understood why it was hidden. The screen showed a planet called Valmont 7. A human colony world. 8 years ago, an alien army called the Kreth had invaded. 47,000 enemy soldiers against 3,000 human defenders. The battle should have lasted 2 days. It lasted 9. Vorix read the numbers. His mind could not accept them. Human casualties, 2,400. Kreth casualties, 47,000. Complete enemy defeat. He scrolled down. One name appeared again and again. Sergeant Kang De-ho. Confirmed kills, 2,847. Vorix stopped reading. He looked at that number for a very long time. One man. Nearly 3,000 kills in 9 days. He continued reading. The file described a single event that became legend among both humans and Kreth. On day 6, enemy forces pushed through human lines. Only one position held. a mountain pass that controlled access to the civilian shelters. One man defended that pass alone for 31 hours. No reinforcements, no supplies, no rest. 400 enemy soldiers entered that pass. None came out alive. When human forces finally reached the position, they found Daeho standing among the bodies. His rifle was empty. His knife was broken. He was wounded 11 times. He should have been dead. He was not dead. The Kreth generals had a name for him. The thing that wears human skin. They refused to send soldiers against him. They said he was a demon, a monster, a nightmare-given form. Humans had a different name. The Grim Reaper of Valmont. Vorax closed the file. His hands were cold. For his entire life, he had believed humans were weak, fragile, inferior. Every Kelthran believed this. It was simple truth. Now he understood. It was simple lie. Humans were not weak. They chose to appear weak. They hid their true nature because they were afraid of themselves. They knew what they could become, and that knowledge terrified them. The station shook, an explosion somewhere close. Vorax activated his communication system. "All units, report status." A panicked voice answered. "Sir, the Vorn Commander Krell has entered the reactor chamber. He says he wants to fight the human. He says he will prove that one alien is worth 1,000 soft skins." Krell, the Vorn Commander, the most feared killer in 3 star systems, a cyborg more machine than flesh. He had personally murdered thousands. Vorax felt something strange, something he had never felt before. He felt afraid for the Vorn. In the reactor chamber, Krell waited. He was massive, nearly 9 feet tall. Half his body was metal. His arms ended in blades instead of hands. His eyes saw heat, movement, energy. Nothing could hide from him. He had watched the security recordings. He had seen what the human did to his soldiers, and he was not afraid. He was excited. Finally, a real challenge. The door opened. The human walked in. Krell studied him. Average height, black armor, cracked helmet. Nothing impressive, nothing frightening. "You are the one they call the Reaper?" Krell laughed. "I expected something more. You look tired, human. You look weak." Daeho did not respond. He simply walked forward. Krell attacked. He was fast. Impossibly fast for something so large. His blade arms cut through the air like lightning. Any normal creature would be dead in seconds. Daeho was not normal. He dodged. He moved. He flowed around the attacks like water around stone. Krell's blades cut air and nothing more. They fought across the reactor chamber. Krell was stronger. Krell was faster. Krell had weapons built into his body. He landed hits. He cut Daeho's armor. He drew blood. But Daeho did not stop. That was the thing about humans that aliens never understood. They were not the strongest. They were not the fastest. But they did not stop. They took damage that would kill other species and kept fighting. They ignored pain. They ignored fear. They ignored the simple logic that said they should be dead. Daeho fought like a man who had already died, because in many ways, he had. The battle lasted 7 minutes. At the end, Krell lay on the ground. Both his arms were broken. His mechanical legs were destroyed. Daeho stood above him, bleeding from a dozen wounds, his left arm hanging useless at his side. In his right hand, he held a knife to Krell's throat. "What are you?" Krell whispered. His voice was broken with shock. "No human can do what you did. What are you?" Daeho looked down at him. His voice was empty, tired, ancient. "I am just a translator. I translate violence into peace. And right now I am translating your surrender. Tell your forces to leave. Tell them the hunt is over. And if I refuse?" Daeho pressed the knife closer. A thin line of blood appeared on Krell's neck. "Then I translate you into a corpse. Your choice." Krell stared into the eyes behind that cracked helmet. He saw no mercy there, no hesitation, no humanity. He saw only death waiting patiently. "I surrender." Deho nodded. He activated Krell's communication system. "This is Commander Krell. All Vorn forces retreat immediately. The mission is failed. Retreat now." Within minutes, the surviving Vorn fled to their ships. They left their dead behind. They left their wounded behind. They ran like prey from a predator. Deho stood alone in the reactor chamber, surrounded by destruction. His body finally gave out. He collapsed against the wall, pulling off his helmet with his one working hand. Captain Hana found him there. She ran to his side, calling for medics. Deho looked up at her. His face was pale. Blood covered his skin. Tears ran down his cheeks, mixing with the blood. "I did not want to be this again," he whispered. Hana took his hand. "I know, but you saved everyone." In the doorway, Nara appeared. Behind her stood Admiral Vorix. They watched the wounded human in silence. Vorix said nothing. There was nothing to say. He had seen the impossible. He had seen a single human defeat an army, and he had seen that same human cry because he hated what he was capable of. For the first time in his life, Vorix understood something about humanity, something important. The most dangerous creatures in the galaxy were not the ones who loved violence. They were the ones who hated it and were good at it anyway. 3 days passed. The station slowly returned to normal. Workers repaired the damaged sections, engineers fixed the broken systems, doctors treated the wounded, and everyone talked about the human. The story spread through every corner of Horizon's edge. A translator had defeated the Vorn. A simple, quiet man had killed more enemies in one day than entire Kelthran battalions. The recordings from security cameras spread across the galaxy. Millions watched a single human walk through darkness and death like a ghost. The aliens who had mocked humans now spoke in whispers. They looked at the human section with new eyes. They remembered every insult they had given, every joke they had made, every time they had called humans weak. They did not laugh anymore. Admiral Vorix requested a meeting with Captain Hana. She came to his office expecting anger. She found something else entirely. Vorix sat behind his desk. His proud posture was gone. He looked like a man who had lost a fight with truth. "I will not apologize," he said. "Kelthran pride does not allow apology." Hana nodded. She understood. "But I will say this." Vorix looked directly at her. "We were wrong about your kind. I was wrong. You are not prey." "You never were." He pushed a document across the desk. "This is a formal request to the Coalition. Full combat status for human forces. Equal standing with all other species. I will sign it personally." Hana picked up the document. She read it twice to make sure it was real. "Why?" she asked. Vorix was quiet for a moment. "Because I watched your man cry after battle. I watched him weep for enemies he killed. Do you know what that means? It means he fights even though it hurts him. It means he becomes a monster to save others, then hates himself for it. That is not weakness, Captain. That is strength I cannot understand." He stood and walked to the window. "The Kelthran fight because we love battle. We celebrate war. We honor death. But humans? Humans fear their own power. You know exactly how terrible you can be, and that knowledge makes you gentle, until someone forces you to remember." He turned back to face her. "I do not want to be the one who forces you to remember again." Hana left the meeting in silence. She had spent years fighting for human recognition. Now it had come, and all it cost was one man's soul. In the medical bay, Deho lay in bed with his eyes closed. His wounds were healing. The machines said he would recover fully, but wounds of the body heal faster than wounds of the heart. Nara visited every day. She brought small gifts. Food from the Kelthran homeworld, books about human history, flowers from the station's garden. She did not know why she kept coming. She only knew that she could not stay away. Today, Daeho's eyes were open. He watched her enter and place a cup of tea beside his bed. "You do not have to keep visiting," he said. "I know. Your people do not like humans. Your friends will talk." Nara sat down in the chair beside him. "My friends watched you save lives. My friends watched you fight when no one else would. They can talk all they want." Daeho stared at the ceiling. His voice was quiet. "You saw what I did. Does it not scare you?" She thought about the question. She thought about the darkness, the sounds of violence, the bodies on the floor. Yes, it scared her. It still scared her. "Yes," she said honestly. "But fear is not hate. I can fear what you are capable of and still respect the choice you make." "What choice?" "To be kind, to be gentle, to be a translator instead of a killer." She leaned forward. "How do you live with it?" "Knowing you can become that thing?" Daeho was silent for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with years of pain. "You do not live with it. You live despite it. Every morning I wake up and choose to be something better. Every day I try to build instead of destroy. Some days I fail. Some days the old monster comes back. But I keep trying. That is all any of us can do. Keep trying." Nara nodded slowly. She did not fully understand. Maybe no one could fully understand who had not lived through the same darkness. But she accepted his answer. 1 month later, the coalition held a formal assembly. Representatives from 30 species gathered to hear a special announcement. The human delegation was recognized as a full combat-capable member of the galactic community. Their forces would stand equal with any other. Their voice would carry equal weight. An elderly Kelthran counselor rose to speak. He was ancient, his gray skin cracked with age, his voice rough from centuries of life. "I have studied human history," he said. "I thought I would find weakness. I found the opposite. Their home world has never known lasting peace. They have fought each other since the first day of their existence. Every generation knows war. Every family knows loss." He looked at the human representatives. "We thought you were peaceful because you were weak. We were fools. You are peaceful because you know war better than any species in this galaxy. You know its cost. You know its horror. You choose peace not from ignorance, but from wisdom." He bowed his head, the deepest sign of Kelthran respect. "That is not weakness. That is wisdom we should learn." The chamber was silent. Then, slowly, the representatives from every species began the gesture of agreement. Different hands, different claws, different limbs, all moving in the same motion. Acceptance. That evening, Daeho returned to the cafeteria. He sat at his usual corner table. He ate his usual meal, rice and soup. Simple food for a simple life. A group of young Kelthran officers approached his table. He tensed, old instincts rising. But their faces were not hostile. They bowed deeply, the gesture of respect. "May we sit with you?" one asked. "We wish to learn from you. Not about fighting, about peace. About how you choose kindness when you are capable of violence." Daeho stared at them. He remembered Torvak spilling his soup. He remembered the laughter. He remembered the word meat. He remembered something else, too, the choice he made every morning, to be better, to build instead of destroy. He gestured to the empty seats. "Sit." They sat. They talked. They listened. And somewhere in that conversation, walls began to fall. Nara joined them later. She slid into the seat beside Daeho and placed a small box on the table. Inside was a translator's badge, freshly made. "For your collection," she said, "because that is still who you are, right?" Daeho looked at the badge. He looked at the young officers. He looked at Nara. For the first time in years, he smiled. A real smile. Small and tired, but real. "Yes," he said softly, "that is still who I am." Outside the windows, stars burned in the eternal darkness. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, and full of creatures who had not yet learned what humans knew. But today, at this table, in this moment, something had changed. They had underestimated the quiet man who poured tea and asked for nothing. They would never make that mistake again, for they had seen the Grim Reaper, and he had chosen to let them live. That choice, more than any battle, was what made him truly powerful. And somewhere in the universe, a new story was being told, a story about humans, about their terrible gift, about their terrible choice, the choice to be gentle when they could be gods of death. That story would spread, and wherever it went, the galaxy would learn the same lesson. Never underestimate humanity. We are the ones who fear ourselves, and we are still choosing to be kind.